When people think of maritime disasters and the greatest losses of life, certain ships come to mind, such as RMS Titanic, 1,500 killed, the USS Indianapolis with 879 killed, the RMS Lusitania with 1,198 dead, and the Soviet ship Armenia, sunk with between 5,000 and 6,000 killed, and the Norwegian freighter Goya with 6,500 killed. But there were others. How did the Wilhelm Gustloff suffer the greatest loss of life at sea? Was the ship carrying more than just soldiers and civilians escaping the Red Army? What secrets still lie within the ship's hull, waiting to be discovered? Did it hold the lost treasure of the Ember Room and Nazi gold?
Hello, I'm Colin Heaton, former soldier, Marine Corps scout sniper, history professor, historian and book author, and we will answer these questions and other issues on this segment of Forgotten History.
During the Second World War, the conflict at sea was the greatest loss of vessels in history and will never be replicated. Many civilian ships, especially transports and cruise liners, converted for military purposes, fell victim to aerial bombardment and submarine attacks. One of these ships very few people have ever heard about is the 25,484-ton Wilhelm Gustloff, which had the most lives lost due to sinking and the many controversies surrounding that event. The ship was going to be named the Adolf Hitler, but instead was christened after Wilhelm Gustloff, the leader of the Nazi Party in Switzerland, who was assassinated by a Jewish medical student in 1936. However, after sitting next to Gustloff's widow during his memorial service, Adolf Hitler decided to have the ship named for her husband in his honor. The Wilhelm Gustloff was one of several German luxury liners built for the Strength Through Joy organization in 1937, but was then assigned to the Navy in 1939 and converted into a military transport ship and also served as a hospital ship. The Gustloff then made many voyages, such as on April 14th through 19th, 1938, the ship went on an Easter voyage with tourists. Her next trip was from April 21st to May 6, 1938, when she joined the other cruise ships, Der Deutsche, Oceana, and Sierra Cordoba, on a Strength Through Joy cruise to the Madeira Islands of Portugal. Bad luck struck the Gustloff when on the second day of her voyage, the 58-year-old captain Karl Lube died from a heart attack. Lube was placed as captain by the first officer, Friedrich Petersen, who took command for the remainder of the voyage. Petersen would later return as the ship's last captain on its final tragic voyage. On May 20th through June 2nd, 1939, the Wilhelm Gustloff was assigned as a transport, bringing the Condor Legion back from their participation in the Spanish Civil War. From the start of World War II, with the invasion of Poland on September 1st, 1939, until November 1940, the Wilhelm Gustloff served as a hospital ship and painted in accordance with international law. On November 20th, 1940, medical equipment was removed from the ship and it was repainted to standard naval gray, and due to the blockade by the Allies of German ports, it was used as a barrack ship at Gotenhafen for 1,000 U-boat trainees of the 2nd Submarine Training Division, and the Gustloff remained there until 1944. The war had turned against the Germans, and their casualties mounted. Transporting the wounded by rail was difficult, primarily due to SS Reichsfuhrer Heinrich Himmler and his chief rail officer, Adolf Eichmann, commandeering railroads for transportation of Jews to the concentration and death camps. This fact alone turned many of Hitler's generals against him, as they learned of the Holocaust and the misuse of the rail system. They were justifiably angry that they could not get supplies and reinforcements, while their men died as others were being sent to their deaths. In 1944, the Gustloff was just one of several ships tasked with Operation Hannibal, evacuating German military personnel, scientists, skilled workers, wounded German soldiers, nurses, and civilians from Gotenhafen, which is modern-day Gdynia, Poland, as the Red Army advanced. Due to the dangers involved, the ship was fitted with anti-aircraft guns and assigned as a transport for evacuees from East Prussia, Lithuania, Latvia, Poland, and Estonia in January 1945. However, politics became a problem, as the Gauleiter, Erich Koch wanted the 500 high-ranking Nazi party members and their families who had arrived by train to be given priority on the ship. Koch also wanted the Gustloff's departure delayed until all the party members and Gestapo officials arrived. Koch also had a special cargo to be loaded, hence his wanting a delay in the ship's departure. Grand Admiral Karl Dönitz, knowing that time was precious, refused the suggestion. And once the wounded and civilians were loaded, he gave the order to set sail. Dönitz needed the Gustloff to depart immediately, arrive in Germany, unload the passengers, and then return to gather more of the 100,000 refugees choking up the port city. On Dönitz's order, the Gustloff left Gotenhafen at 12:30 p.m. on January 30th, 1945, but it had not been marked as a hospital ship. The ship's crews and passenger list cited 6,050 people on board, including the wounded, but not included were many passengers who were not recorded in the official embarkation records. A German archivist named Heinz Schön, himself a Gustloff survivor, who extensively researched the sinking during the 1980s and 1990s, concluded that the ship had a crew of 173 naval personnel, 918 officers, NCOs, and the men of the 2nd U-Boat Training Division, and 373 female naval auxiliaries. He also confirmed 162 wounded soldiers and 8,956 civilians, including Gestapo personnel, members of Organization Tod, and other Nazi officials with their families. His detailed estimate is that the ship carried 10,582 passengers and crew, including between 4,000 to 5,000 children. The passengers, besides civilians, did not have anywhere near enough lifeboats, and many passengers either did not wear or were not given life jackets. The Soviet submarine S-13, commanded by Captain Alexander Marinesco, had spent 3 years undergoing repairs after a depth charge attack by Finnish subchasers in 1942. The submarine had just been placed back into service and was patrolling the Baltic when it sighted the Gustloff. Marinesco had a perfect sight picture and fired 4 torpedoes, but 1 was stuck in the tube and never released, but 3 struck the Gustloff, which sank within an hour. Those who had not been killed by the initial blast were blown overboard, the majority freezing to death in the icy Baltic Sea, with only 1,200 being rescued. The best conservative estimate is that at least 9,400 people died, making it the largest loss of life in a single ship in history. Later, on February 10, 1945, S-13 sank the German military transport General von Steuben, where 3,300 civilians and military personnel from the ship died, and only 300 survived. With a career total of 44,701 tons sunk or damaged, she is the highest-scoring Soviet submarine in history. Yet what is not often reported in the history of the ship and its sinking was the belief by some that the Wilhelm Gustloff was also transporting Nazi gold, and, perhaps even more important, the lost Amber Room. But was Nazi gold and the Amber Room really on board? The question is asked due to the sinking of 2 other ships, the aforementioned SS General von Steuben and the SS Karlsruhe, both assigned evacuation duties. The Karlsruhe was torpedoed and bombed on April 13, 1945, while also carrying refugees. The Karlsruhe was found and inspected by Polish divers on July 2020. Rumors abound that some crates located inside may contain the Amber Room along with the Nazi gold. Were either of these ships carrying the stolen fortunes? We may never know. What we do know is that the Wilhelm Gustloff ranks as the worst maritime disaster due to loss of life in history, and the General von Steuben not far behind, and both were sunk by the same submarine commander. The mysteries continue, and hopefully one day we may know the truth.
We hope you enjoyed this segment of Forgotten History. Please click like and subscribe for free. And please stay tuned and be engaged and informed. Send us comments if you have questions or even show ideas, and we will respond to all requests and comments as soon as we can. Thank you.